This video will have been made several times over the past week and a half because I'm getting ready. No, not getting ready, because I'm working on learning a whole new format in video editing and my camera and all that kind of stuff. And I suspect this is stuff that none of you are that concerned with and couldn't care less. That in fact you come here to learn about enlightenment and spirituality and stuff like that. But I'm just letting you know that I'm having great difficulties learning this new process. And in addition to that, I work full-time in doing my artwork. And so I haven't dedicated enough time to this. But I'm going to finish up my artwork today. And then I have nothing scheduled for the next couple of weeks before I head out of town. So hopefully I'll have enough time to get familiar with the way the camera and everything works, and I'll have it figured out. And from here on out, I can produce a video every week without any problems. But I wanted to talk about enlightenment and the process to enlightenment. And it kind of is interesting because it's like this video stuff. Some of you, who knows how many of you, maybe none of you, but a lot of people are extremely good at what they do. They've learned it after years. Possibly they've learned things in a former life before they were born, and it comes natural to them. And so they can't understand why other people have difficulties trying to do what they do so easily and naturally. That's kind of like enlightenment, because for me it seems that it's not that difficult to understand, and yet at the exact same time I know that I've been conversing with people for many years and they still don't get it. So I can understand the difficulty, and I have to go back and recall what I went through to become enlightened. And when I became what I refer to as God enlightened, which is a personal awareness experience of one-on-one with God, meaning Brahma, the God that Jesus prayed to. And that wasn't something that I had prepared for. It's something subconsciously I was preparing for, but it isn't something that I really thought was attainable in this particular life. And so when that took place, it was extremely life-altering. And that happened probably 10 years before what I refer to as Buddha enlightenment. And Buddha enlightenment was the same way, similarly. In other words, was I striving to become enlightened like that? Well, to a certain degree, subconsciously I was, for certain. But I wasn't really striving to become enlightened because I didn't understand what it really was. Subconsciously, I knew it was a big thing, which is why I was driven to study for damn near a decade prior to it. And I studied all the time. I read, I talked with people, I traveled the country, I spoke with different gurus. I met a guru here in Las Vegas who's no longer alive. And I spent several years with him, and I wasn't aware, let's put it this way, I wasn't meeting with him one-on-one as well as going to the group Sangha meeting, I wasn't doing that because I was trying to become enlightened with what he taught. I was going there because I thought I was trying to help him and others out spiritually, trying to get their awareness and eyes to be opened because I knew God personally. And of course, that didn't go over well with non-duality people. And it was what I would refer to as extremely stressful to me personally, as well as I'm sure anyone else that might have been in that group. But I persisted because subconsciously I knew that I needed to become enlightened. And I do say subconsciously because really I wasn't doing this consciously. And so my efforts were based upon love, based upon trying to help Jim, my guru. I was trying to help him become God enlightened. In the end, he helped me to become Buddha enlightened, and I suspect my efforts for him will produce fruit in future life experiences that he'll have in his next life. So let me explain to you the process. Now, there's a guru on YouTube called Acharya Shri. I kind of like the guy. He seems to be a very good-hearted person. He seems to be extremely knowledgeable. I like the way he teaches. Is he enlightened? Probably. I think that he's Buddha enlightened, but he's of the non-duality side of enlightenment. And so you have to take what he teaches with a grain of salt in many respects. But at the same time, if you had great respect for him and what he teaches, I think you would learn a lot. I believe that it's best to get your knowledge and information to become enlightened from multiple sources, like a rainbow, so that you can see it from so many perspectives that help your mind have such conflict that it causes the spirit and mind to just explode somehow. And I do say somehow because there's no way you become enlightened on your own. It's some sort of magical connection with God. And those that are non-duality enlightened, I feel sad for them because I don't know how they could survive enlightenment afterwards. And even Acharya Shri talks about that people that become enlightened, for the most part, cease to be alive, and they die and nobody knows about them. So you're not going to have very many enlightened people on the planet at any given time. I can see how that would happen. It was extremely difficult for me, the process that I went through. But when I say it's extremely stressful and difficult, you have to remember, who am I? I am a retired professional firefighter, not from a little dinky small town. I was in the second largest fire department in the state of Oregon. And so we had 24 fire stations. We had several outlying cities around Portland. And so as a professional firefighter for just over 25 years, I was able to be involved in many dangerous scenarios with fires and explosions and life-threatening things. And I, I have found out since then that many people find that to be extremely scary and something that they would not want to be around. It is, but for me, because maybe there's something broken in me, or maybe I have faith, or who knows what the reason is, it wasn't scary at all for me. I enjoyed every bit of it. Climbing to the top of a 105-foot aerial ladder, unsupported, was not that frightening to me, whereas other people couldn't even do it. And that's part of the process of going through training. If you can't do it, you're not going to be employed in the fire service. It's a test to find out how you deal with scary situations. The same holds true with fighting fire, not only in training, but in real life. It's a very stressful, scary situation, but not for me. To me, there's, like I said, there's something broken in me, fearlessness that I found to be exciting. It didn't feel fearful to me, it felt exciting. Same thing when I used to ride fast motorcycles. I would ride them as fast as I possibly could. 165 miles an hour was no big deal for me. It wasn't scary, it was exciting. So when I tell you that the process to become Buddha enlightened was scary, it was stressful, it was to the point where I didn't think I could endure it anymore, and I would have to step away for weeks before I could get back to it because it was so stressful, so scary, so earth-shatteringly difficult to even comprehend, let alone experience. That's coming from my perspective. So I can't imagine what it would be like for a normal person. I don't even know how. I guess I could understand why Acharya Shri says people cease to be alive on the process of being enlightened or thereafter. I don't know how it could be thereafter, honestly. I guess if you're from the non-duality dialect and you are somewhat of a sociopath, I suspect maybe you'd be able to endure it okay. But if you have love in your heart and soul, and that is something that is extinguished during the process, I can understand how you would not survive enlightenment. That would make sense to me. But I have said it before, and I'll say it again, that I felt that it was the most difficult thing that any human being could possibly endure. Regardless, there is no way to endure it. It seemed like it was so difficult. And at the very moment, and I mean at the very extreme moment of becoming enlightened, after that episode, everything changed to the point where for me, I considered that I would be willing to endure 1,000,000 lifetimes of millions of years of unbelievable stress and endurance, living in hell for an eternity, if you will, just to become enlightened it's incomparable to the benefits of enlightenment and the joy, the absolute. Words can't define it. Now imagine if I'm saying that about enlightenment, and then it's an exponential jump from enlightenment to becoming one with God. Uh, Imagine what that is like. Yeah, it's crazy. And I'm not talking about God enlightenment. I'm talking about a different level of becoming or being one with God, as Jesus was, or became, or whatever the process was. So, getting to the details of enlightenment, you know, there's another guy in England, I think, Great Britain, somewhere over there. His name is David Icke, and he talks about spirituality all the time. And he refers to this life and reality as a thing to escape. Now, with that attitude that he has, he's never going to escape it. The attitude has to change, otherwise, there is no way to escape it. His thinking is flawed. His thinking is that we are trapped in samsara, in this reality, and that we are tasked with trying to somehow escape it. And of course, you can't without becoming enlightened. And I'm telling you that that's wrong thinking. I want to express to you that this lifetime, this reality that we are living in this reality is not a test as he says it is. It is a developmental process. So if you look at an acorn and say, does it go through tests to become an oak tree? Well, you could say that if you look at it from one perspective. But the reality is it's going through a process to become developed into an oak tree. And this life that we are living right now, that is like you are the acorn becoming a god. And through that process of development, it is very stressful. It is very difficult. And if you look at the process as something that you need to get through so that you can become the oak tree, you're not looking at it correctly. If you understood it correctly, that this reality is a blessing from God, created so that you can go through the process of time and space to develop yourself to becoming a god like Brahma, to becoming a god like Christ, to becoming one with them. This is the perfect scenario where you are right now today. So don't, and when I say don't, I'm asking you. I'm asking you to try to understand that God loves you, that the entire process that we are going through is this way because God loves you, because God has created a situation for you. God doesn't do this because God enjoys watching us suffer, or God is an idiot and doesn't know what God is doing, or God has made a mistake, or whatever the case may be. Regardless of the situation, I mean, you can look around and from a duality standpoint that I teach, there really is a Satan, there really are demons, and there really is pain and suffering. And you could say, well, why would a loving God allow this horrible scenario to exist? Well, you can ask the question why, but don't expect an answer, because an answer will not suffice. You have to actually experience it and go through the process of becoming one with God and enlightenment and everything for you to understand it. You can't just give an answer. It's like an acorn asking, well, what's it like to be an oak tree? Well, there's no way to express that in such a way that the acorn can understand, because the acorn has to go through the process to become an oak tree before the acorn will understand. And then at that time, it's no longer an acorn, it's an oak tree, looking back at what it was like to be an acorn. Does that make sense? So that's the process you're going through. And it's not accidental. The paradoxes that I talk about, which is I take my hands like this and I go, movement in this physical reality is impossible. That we exist from a basis of zero. And when you take your hands and pass them across each other like that, they can't go from zero and back. It's not possible. And yet I did it, and you saw it with your own two eyes. Now, that creates a conflict to an intelligent person. The conflict is, well, yeah, what is the first integer out of zero that escapes zero? And there is none. It's not possible. There is no way to do that. All of reality is that way. There is no way to escape zero. So the only way to escape zero is to create a fable, create a scenario where you escape zero through imagination. That's why I say this reality is an imaginary reality. It is a dreamlike condition that God, Brahma, is currently creating, and you are a participant in this dream-created reality, and you are under the influence of the creation of God. And in that, the paradoxical conflict of doing this will cause your mental acuity to go, well, yeah, how is that possible? How does a red light change to a green light, since if it's red, that means green is zero, it doesn't exist. And at some point, the red light stops and the green light turns on. Not possible. Gravity is another scenario. It's like the planet Earth is like 8,000 miles in diameter, and on this side of the globe, you weigh a couple hundred pounds. And on this side of the globe, you weigh a couple hundred pounds. And that's impossible, because if you travel through the center of the Earth, right to the very, very, very center, it has to be zero, meaning the center of the Earth is hollow. It must be, because the mass pulls in all directions. The sun is the same thing. Every sun has a center where the gravity is pulling in all directions, which is why the nuclear reaction can take place in the center of a sun. Science, of course, would disagree with what I just said, because they are based upon the false notion that reality is a physical situation and that it's real. It isn't. It is not. God has created these paradoxes in literally everything. The very voice coming out of my mouth starts from zero and proceeds to create a voice. That's impossible, because it can't go from zero to something. And yet, you are hearing and seeing exactly that. So your cognitive awareness should be going, oh, then this isn't real. How is this possible? And of course, a lot of people go through the process of going, well, if it isn't real, then I don't exist. And if I don't exist, that causes stress in my heart and soul because my love, the love that I have must be false. My faith in God must be false. Everything must be false. And of course, that is the process that you go through to become enlightened. And you're not going to discover the source of that love, even if you become Buddha enlightened. You will not discover the source. The only way to discover the source is to become God enlightened, which is similar to Buddha enlightenment, only that it is a connection to God. And that is where you realize yourself and God. God is a zero, you are a zero, but you are separate zeros. I know that doesn't make sense, that in the concept of Advaita, which is horribly misunderstood, those sorts of things are understood, because if you were to take all the Vedas, that's why they say Advaita Vedanta, which means if you take all the Vedas, all the teachings of all the spiritual leaders from the beginning of time and condense all of that teaching to one concept, which is the word Advaita, supported by the word Vedanta, then you will understand exactly what I was just saying, that you have two zeros coexisting, separate, but kind of like, well, not separate. And some people that are non-duality will say, yeah, you don't understand what you're talking about, when in fact I do understand what I'm talking about. Anyone from a background of non-duality does not understand the concept of Vedanta. They are mistaken, because people that are non-duality enlightened or almost enlightened, what they have done is they've transferred their consciousness from their physical body. They've transferred that from one point. They go, oh, I'm a physical body, I am a human, I am a truck driver, whatever the case may be, and they just transfer their awareness from that to the non-duality scenario, which is this physical reality, which is an illusion, and they've just transferred their perspective from here to there, and then they go, oh, I'm nothing. Nothing is the basis of reality, therefore I don't exist. They haven't surrendered their grip on reality. They just transferred that grip from the physical reality to the non-physical reality. They haven't released anything. And so it's like a child with their security blanket. No, I don't want to let go of my security blanket. People with non-duality never do let go of their security blanket. They just transfer it from a physical blanket to a spiritual blanket. They haven't released control. You must release control of everything to become enlightened. Otherwise, you get stuck in this samsaric lifestyle of non-duality and never escape. Anyways, I'll get back into scenarios of enlightenment to hopefully cause some sort of conflict in you. But the one thing I want you to know while you're on the path to enlightenment, because I think it's very important, hopefully you have a connection to God, which is, when I say hopefully, I know that that is a hollow hope, because there is a concept that is inescapable, that Brahma is not going to create a scenario where you have proof of his existence. That is just the way it is. I could explain it, but at this point I'm not going to. And so along the path to become enlightened, where you lose everything, it is beyond sad. It is so self-destroying that I would suspect that's why people don't make it and cease to exist on the process of becoming enlightened. Because when you lose everything and you have a modicum of love in your heart and soul and you lose that too, I don't know how you would survive. So on the path, what I'm hoping to present to you is that you have a friend in me, that I do love you. I have a confidence that is unshakable because I've seen the future. Not only have I seen it, I've experienced it. God blessed me in such a way that is unbelievable. And this confidence in you personally, when I say you personally, I'm talking about millions of people. I have this confidence that I've already gone through the millions of years to experience this love connection with you personally. I am your friend here in the physical reality. So on your path to becoming enlightened, and it becomes scary and difficult, recognize that I'm here, I'm your friend. The reason I love you and the reason I make these videos is because I've seen the end. I have seen people like yourself that are with God, that we are one with God eternally. And it's because of the friendship and the love between you and I, and Brahma and you and I, and Christ and Krishna, and anyone and everyone that is going to endure all the way through this kalpa of time to become one with God. And so I'm hoping that I can present it in such a way that isn't so harsh that you lose all hope of losing love, losing friendship and stuff like that. I think that was extremely well understood by Jesus, which is why he told people in confidence, I wish that you would see me as your friend and not a God or not an enlightened person or not one with God or anything like that. What I would prefer you to see me as is your friend. That's what Jesus said. And I think that's because he obviously understood the nature of the difficulty of becoming one with God and how you go through this destructive period. And if you have a friend, then you have this one shining hope that there is a way to get through the process. That's what I hope I supply for you. With that, I'm going to get busy in my shop and finish that art project today. And I'm going to show you a picture of the finished product maybe tomorrow. It is a sign. I built a sign for my dentist who showed me a picture. Basically, I just have it on my cell phone, a picture of some sort of digital sign that he wanted built. And of course, I built it differently to a certain degree. And it was quite difficult to build. I hope he likes it. I told him if he doesn't, he can throw it away and he doesn't have to pay me a penny. But I like to do stuff like that for certain professionals in my life so that I can have free dental care. And I enjoy doing it. Anyways, thank you for watching. I love you, and I'll talk to you later.